Welcome back to Unsolicited Feedback, the podcast where we cut through the noise, skip the corporate jargon, and get real about what actually drives results. Because let's be honest, hope is not a business strategy. I'm your host, Chuck Knabusch, the operations guy. After 40 plus years across the military, corporate America, and now entrepreneurship, I've seen what works, what breaks, and why leadership, planning, and execution are the great separators between average and exceptional. As you're catching the replay, send your thoughts, challenges directly to me at chuck@1310, chuck@13ten.com. Your time matters, so let's jump straight into today's topic. Year-end leadership review. The final quarter where accountability, reality, and next year's success collide. We all just completed this, or many of us, given that the calendar year just ended. This is the moment where everything your organization has done, failed to do, learned, ignored, built, or avoided finally shows up in one sheet of paper. There's no more running away. No more next month we'll catch up. No more hiding underperformance inside the averages. At year end, the scoreboard is the scoreboard. But year end isn't just about reporting what happened. It's a leadership event, a strategic reset, an accountability moment, and a chance to design next year so it doesn't start with the same problems you're ending with. The biggest problem, leaders treat year-end reviews like a ceremonial closeout instead of a strategic reset. Most organizations approach year-end like a holiday tradition. Let's finalize the numbers. Let's achieve the KPIs. Let's send out a recap newsletter. Celebrate what went well, shrug at what didn't, and toss together an annual plan. And go home for the holidays. And then, like clockwork, they start the next year with the same systems, the same weaknesses, the same blind spots, the same performance patterns that created the problems in the first place. The real problem is year-end becomes a celebration or a post-mortem, not a transformation event. Leaders check the box. They summarize, they reflect, but they don't rebuild. So here's an additional challenge. There's no time left to catch up. By year-end, the runway is gone. The cumulative effects are final. The trailing indicators have landed. The gaps are real, the damage is done, and the opportunities were either seized or missed. You can't fix the year. You can only learn from it and design the next one differently. This is where leadership maturity gets tested. Identify the biggest symptom. The organization starts the new year already behind. The telltale signs include January begins with catch-up mode instead of launch mode. Teams drag last year's unresolved issues into Q1. Annual goals get quietly lowered in February. Budgets don't match capability. Leaders hope the new year energy will solve structural issues. The first quarter becomes a cleanup operation. The organization feels mentally tired before the new year even starts. I've seen companies hit January with the same bottlenecks, the same training issues, the same project delays, the same leadership gaps, and the same capacity problems they had in July, because year-end was treated like a wrap-up, not a reset. This is how organizations lose years in slow motion. So what do most people do to try and fix the problem? Attempt number one, big motivational speeches. New year, new you. Except the people are the same, the processes are the same, and the constraints are the same. Attempt number two, massive unrealistic annual goals. If a 5% improvement didn't happen this past year, surely 15% will magically occur next year because the spreadsheet says so. Attempt number three, hiring sprees, because nothing solves process failure like throwing more bodies into the fire, except it rarely does. Also, training capacity, onboarding gaps, and leadership bandwidth. Attempt number four, rebranding the problems as opportunities, which is corporate code for we don't want to deal with this right now. Number 5, planning in isolation. Finance builds a plan, operations builds a plan, sales builds a plan, HR builds a plan, and then everybody pretends they're aligned. Year-end plans built in silos die in silos. So why those solutions rarely work? Here's why the typical year-end rituals fail. A, they're all backward looking. They're not forward building. Year-end reviews spend too much time revisiting the year and not enough time redesigning the next one. B, they rely on hope instead of capability. Leaders often assume next year will be better because it has to be. Hope does not equal capacity. C, they recycle the same expectations without addressing the weaknesses that prevented success previously. If training was a problem this year, it'll be a problem next year, unless something changes. D, they fail to identify what must be stopped, not just what must be started. Most organizations add priorities. Great organizations remove obstacles. E, they don't turn learnings into standards. The best year-end reviews answer, what did we learn that must become a part of how we operate going forward? If you don't convert lessons into systems, the year didn't teach you anything. F, they don't adjust the annual plan based on reality. Too many leaders force fit next year's plan into last year's structure, but reality doesn't care about your spreadsheet. As Peter Drucker said, plans are only good intentions unless they immediately denigrate into hard work. Year-end is where intentions must become systems. Identify the one thing they can do to actually move the needle. Run the year-end leadership reset. This is more than a review. It's a reconciliation of truth and a redesign of the next 12 months. Here's a 5-part structure that actually works. The year-end leadership reset. Step 1, conduct a candid, no excuse annual reality check. Ask, what did we accomplish? What didn't we accomplish? Why? What did we underestimate? What did we misunderstand? What did we ignore? And what did we learn the hard way? This is where the truth, not the stories, come out. You look at capacity breakdowns, training gaps, structural failures, cross-functional friction, supplier performance, overtime dependency, leadership bandwidth, project slippage, cost impact, and customer impact. This is your operational autopsy. Step 2, celebrate and analyze the annual wins and make them repeatable. Ask, where do we overperform? What caused the win? Which behaviors, processes, or decisions drove success? How do we build this into next year's standard work? Wins aren't accidents. They're data-rich prototypes for future excellence. Step 3, identify non-negotiable structural fixes. This is where most organizations fail. You must decide what must be permanently corrected, what bottlenecks can't be tolerated again, what leadership gaps must be closed, what processes must be rebuilt, what assumptions must be abandoned, and what systems must be upgraded. Year-end is where you stop managing around problems and start eliminating them. Step 4, rebuild next year's expectations based on capability, not fantasy. The next year's plan must be capacity-based, human realistic, data-driven, cross-functionally aligned, resource-supported, and rooted in what you learned this year. You define what success actually looks like, what constraints must be removed, what gets resourced and what gets cut, what priorities matter, what leadership commitments are required. If the plan isn't grounded in reality, it's not a plan, it's a wish list. Step 5, launch the new year with intent, clarity, and a final accountability moment. This is the most important step. What are we carrying forward? What are we leaving behind forever? What will we fix in the first 30 days? What will we protect fiercely? What new standards are we declaring? What cadence will we use to stay aligned? Year-end is not closure. It's ignition. You don't start the new year by hoping it gets better. You start the new year by building it to go better. At year-end, the scoreboard is final. You don't get another month to fix it. But you do get another year to design it differently. The question isn't how the year ended. The question is whether you'll build the next year with intention or drift into it with wishful thinking. Year-end is not a recap. It's a reset. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Unsolicited Feedback. Thanks for joining me. Don't just nod along. Apply something from today's conversation. Because results don't show up from listening. They show up because you did something. Even one small action this week will move the needle farther than a month of good intentions. If you want to go deeper, scan the QR code or schedule a 30-minute strategy chat. I'd love to hear how you're using planning, leadership, and execution to make sure hope never becomes your business strategy. Drop a comment and like the episode. I'm Chuck Knabusch. Until next time, stay focused, stay disciplined, and don't you dare rely on hope.